one of the things that's happened to us, is happening to us, is the political has collapsed into the religious. So there's this New Testament statement that Christ makes. It's an unbelievably impactful statement. It's a statement that is in some sense miraculous in its effects. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. And the entire formal separation of church and state in the Western world is a consequence of that statement. You just think of that, how impactful that statement was. That's literally the case. I don't care if you're religious or not. It's irrelevant. Historically, that's the case. That statement did that. So that's a miracle, in some real sense. Well, let's say that's true psychologically as far as I'm concerned, as well as politically, is that there's a domain that's sacred and there's a domain that's profane. And that's true psychologically. And if you don't keep those separate, then the sacred contaminates the profane. Or alternatively, the profane gets inflated into the sacred. And that's a catastrophe. Because then everything becomes emotionally overwrought. Because you're no longer a political enemy, you're an emissary of Satan. I mean, that's essentially what happened to me with the Red Skull, It got pushed that far. It was right to the point of ultimate absurdity. It's like, really? Like Nazi isn't a bad enough epithet? I have to be a magical super Nazi? And really? That's really necessary? Well, what's going on? Well, obviously, because Red Skull, you think of that, Red Skull is Satan for all intents and purposes. It's only a matter of nomenclature, and so it's not like the Marvel universe is Christian, but it is in a profound sense. I mean, all those movies have underlying religious themes, fighting off the demonic extraterrestrial aliens that are invading the earth. It's all played out in the domain of religious ideation. I mean, Thor is a god, for God's sake. It's not like this is hard to see. Well, if the profane becomes inflated with the sacred, then you demonize your enemies. And then maybe you sacralize yourself as well, and that's not so good. You're an environmentalist. It's like, well, are you sure you're not the Messiah? Are you sure that's not what you're doing? You're the savior of the planet. It's like, are you sure that's so good for your ego? And it's not. It's not. The earth has to orbit the sun in Jung's terminology, or if it falls into the sun, it's a catastrophe. And all sorts of discussions we're having are becoming inflated with religious concerns. And then, on the materialist atheist side, let's say the scientific side, although it's not really that, there's this insistence that religion is nothing but a set of mistaken scientific propositions about the nature of reality, which it's certainly, that's not a very sophisticated analysis. And I've seen this sort of thing start to happen to people like Richard Dawkins. I mean, he's fallen prey. He's become victim to the collapse of the religious into the political. It's not good. And this has nothing to do with arguments about, do I believe in God or does God exist? It's like, that's not the point of this. That's not the point. That's not the issue here. The issue is we have a religious instinct. And then the question is why? And then the question is, well, what happens when it's not nourished? Where does it go? What does it do? Well, the rationalist idea is, well, if we get rid of all that superstitious claptrap, we'll just be like straight rationalist materialists and the world will move in a positive direction. It's like, no, wrong, too simple. That isn't it. Where do we get our values? And that's the conversation I'm trying to have with people. That's a big part of it is, look, science does not provide values. We need values or nihilism or reigns. And you want that? No. So where do we get our values? And if there are values, are some values higher than others? And if so, what are the highest values? And what are they opposed to? And how do we embody them? These aren't conversations for children. This is serious stuff, and it's underneath all this noise and terror that we see playing out so destructively. So you see what that does to your soul. You're on Twitter, you get tangled up in these political arguments. It just hurts you. It's not good for you. And so I'm trying to figure out what's going on underneath that, and what we need to do about it.